Our audit trail in SilverLeaf is really, we've set it up. It began as a conversation about how we can really track who's doing what. And there's kind of three things I'd like to show you that I think are kind of the pillars of how you can make sure that there's accountability, let's say, in your system. So we'll talk about user security. I want to show you change tracking, who did what, and our approval workflows, and we'll talk about our posting date management. Okay, so let's get, oops. Yes, I want to exit, and now let's go look at a few things here. First, let's talk about the users. When I opened up and we were talking about the intercompany, I said you can set security by users. And so if I go into my user list, I have a whole bunch of users, and we tend to give ourselves super user rights, but in the real world, you wouldn't want to do that. You'd want to be very selective of who's a super user. But my user Brian, if I come into here, you can see Brian has selected roles that he can do in this company. And so he's able to enter QC results, he can enter lab results, he can do label printing, but that's about it. Other users might be financial users. We can assign them to groups and give them different authority. And again, this can be done by company. And our Company Central app makes it a little bit easier to assign a person's roles across multiple companies. So that's the first thing I like to show about the security, is the security on the users. We also, in our general ledger, can identify what dates a user is allowed to post to. Jennifer mentioned this again in Company Central. We're able to apply this across all companies at once. But here I've said that right now, my whole company can only post from July 1st to July 31st. But I'm in accounting and I still am working on June. And I might even be working on the audit from last year. I might need a much wider range of dates open. Here's the default. My users, I can now assign what date ranges they're allowed to use. So if I go into user setup, anyone who's listed with specific dates in here can post to those dates. So notice Jennifer and I have a wide open date. Jennifer can post to anything after January 1st. I'm set to post all of 22 and 24. Brian, we could lock down. Maybe he's only allowed to post for a different period of time. So you can set up these dates for each user. So we get control over what dates are used, so you don't end up with things that got posted to previous periods. That's kind of what I would call the first pillar of our setup. Now let's look at our customers, and I'll show you a little bit something we call change tracking. Our change tracking app gives you a record of who edited what. So many times we're in a scenario where a user will come up to us and say, the software changed the data and I don't know how that happened, or I don't know who did that. And we wanted to solve for that problem. So here on Customer Canamed, if I come under Process Changes, here you'll see every time we edited this record. And in fact, you'll see that on March 31st, I changed their credit limit from $750,000 to $100,000. I tend to play around with the same data over and over again, so you can see the different things that I've changed over time on this account. Here I changed the salesperson from JP to JF. So if JP is wondering, well, who changed that? This is my account. You can easily come in and see that. Okay. We also, you'll see all over Business Central, our request approval button. This button allows us to set up workflows really anywhere. So maybe we have a workflow when a new customer is created that the credit manager has to approve that credit limit. So we could request approval for that. And that customer can't be used until it's been approved. Similarly, we can do that with items. Maybe we have a new finished good and we want the design team to make sure the bill of materials looks correct, or that the packaging is correct. We can set up approval workflows there. Finally, another approval workflow you could set up is that if, let's say a customer's over their credit limit, the order can go through to your credit manager before you can place that order to them. So we get all kinds of control over our processes. So whereas change tracking is kind of after the fact, who changed this, the approval workflows allow you to control things before they're usable.